Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on food waste management in tourism, organized by the Green subgroup of the Commission Expert Group Together for EU Tourism, T4T. My name is Carla Aguirre Mauritsen, and I am Deputy CEO of Visit Skåne, and I'm also chairing Task Force 3 on waste management of the T4T Green subgroup. And I will be guiding you through our webinar today. Today's webinar is designed for all tourism sector stakeholders who are interested in understanding and tackling food waste as a pathway to enhance sustainability and economic efficiency. Food plays a significant role in the tourism experience, enriching local economies and cultures and offering visitors unique insights into regional culinary traditions. However, the mismanagement of food resources leads to huge amount of waste, contributing to broader environmental and socio-economic issues. Therefore, managing food sustainably is crucial for both environmental, social, and economic sustainability within the tourism sector. Our objectives today are to raise awareness about food waste in tourism, provide actionable guidance for stakeholders, and showcase effective practices for reducing food waste. We will discuss the global and sectoral impact of food waste, policy and industry actions, strategy for reduction, case studies, and best practices. But most of all, we want us all to be inspired to act now. But before that, some practical issues. During the webinar, please feel free to interact with each other by sending our comments and ideas through the chat function of WebEx. The questions for the speakers can be submitted through the Slido Q&A that you will see a button on the right hand below. And finally, we also have prepared a Slido poll open throughout the webinar with 3 questions for you to respond to. Question number 1. In 2 words, why do you think it is important to adopt practices for food waste management? Question number 2. Does the topic of food waste management concern consumers, service providers, or the whole tourism value chain? And question number 3, how can EU support tourism stakeholders to better address this challenge? Please give us your answers and share with us what you think. Now let's dive into our first session titled Rethink, Redesign, Embracing Circularity. This session will inspire us to become cross-cultural change agents and embrace circularity within gastronomy. Therefore, I am pleased to introduce our first speaker, Fia Gulliksson. Not only is she a true passionate of food and to constantly make difference for a better world, she's also the CEO of Food Action of Sweden, a food expert, a concept producer, a chef, an honorary doctor in creative gastronomy at Mid-Sweden University. Very welcome, Fia. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm so happy and I'm so proud to be part of this panel today, and I hope I can inspire you from the heart of the Nordics. I live in a sparsely populated region called Jämtland with 123,000 inhabitants, and I'm hopefully can inspire you to do change. And I will tell you shortly my story and my method, because for more than 35 years, nearly 40 years, I've been working with changing food systems. So as you heard Carla saying, I'm all these fancy words, international expert, honorary doctor or whatever, and I've been called like a mix between Pippi and Ingvar Kamprad. But actually, I call myself a passionate potato. And I'm going to share with you really briefly the potato method. And for the past, since 2000, I've designed actually more than 25 ecosystems or companies or products or services with this potato method. And the monetary gains and the revenue are constantly put into new systems to build communities and to build awareness and to get more people or to get more potatoes in action. So actually the potato method or any kind of change, and this is something I really want to stress during this seminar, as that we need to do now an inner shift. We need to raise the inner awareness, our own awareness, in order to increase our chances of reaching the sustainability goals collectively. I mean, these systems we built today and that we're trapped in are actually made by humans. And we humans can actually change the system, but we need to solve the problem with new ideas, new creativity, new consciousness. And that's kind of what appeared to me or occurred to me 35 years ago when I first became a mom. I realized, oh my God, I want to leave this earth in a bit better shape than my parents gave it to me. And how can I do that? Well, it starts within here, right? And I'd like to also share in my presentation, there is a link to 29K, which is like an inner awareness platform. So if we all start there, that's kind of where it begins, because we can't solve these problems unless we think in different ways. So I created, for me, and I've shared this for many people, what I call the passionate potato method. It's very simple. It's kind of talking in, how do you say it, in metaphors. So imagine if you're a potato, you want to taste good, right? That's the first important thing when it comes to gastronomy. And then you want to do good where you go, to the body you're building, and you want to do good from where you come from. If that's your core value in what you do when you create businesses or changes, I think you come a long way. You can't be a spectator, nothing happens, right? You have to be a passionate, driven potato, and you can't be a couch potato either. I mean, the world will be destroyed not by the people kind of trying to do things, but the people just watching. So no couch potatoes, thank you. And I realized that at an early stage. And then the next part of this method or this way of thinking is that you get your priorities right. And you know, to save potatoes for the next growing season, to be able to make new potatoes, you need to store them carefully. So this is the part of the recipe where I say, let's put them in a bucket. Imagine that's your life, your world, your company, your health. Then you have to put them carefully in the right order, right? You put the potatoes in the bucket first, and they symbolize the green and health aspects of your life, of your company, of your system. And then you put in pebbles in the bucket, right? And they symbolize the circular, the social and the cultural aspects. And at last you put in the sand in the bucket. And that's the money aspect, right? And if you store your potatoes in the bucket in this order, and you prioritize everything you do in your company, in your life, in your region, it will sustain, the potatoes will sustain till the next growing season. And then you can make new potatoes, right? And that's the way to build a sustainable life, a sustainable company. So that's the second part of the method. But to understand this, you need to have awareness and you need to start acting like a CIA agent. If you don't, your potatoes will not be there in the autumn to make new potatoes. And I mean, find new ways to solve the problem, create, imagine, act, because anything you can dream of, anything you can make a story of or vision, it is actually a reality. It just hasn't yet been materialized. So that's what I really want to inspire you guys to become game changers. You need to start with your inner self and your priorities. And that's kind of what I've done from this tiny region in the north of Sweden And I think it's possible for anyone to do changes, but we need to co-create it and do it together. And when it comes to tourism, for me, it's super simple. You have to attract conscious travelers and foodies to your region, to your restaurant, to your country. Why? Because they, one, spend more when they come, two, they care more. So they are really aware about where to put their dollar. But they also communicate much more. They communicate up to 300% more, the conscious foodie compared to the regular tourists. So this is a no-brainer if you want to work and solve the food waste systems in your regions. So quickly, I'm going to run through what we're talking about today, raising awareness. I have 2 examples of each, and you can look into depth when you have time to get inspiration and do change where you come from or where you're working. So these are 2 Nordic examples of raising awareness, the Rescue Club and the previous, the Stop Wasting Food from Denmark. Here's another example of providing guidance where you can get inspired. Also, this one from Iceland, providing guidance. Here is a showcase of best practices to go to Too Good To Go. I think it's a really smart platform. Also, you have Karma in Sweden. It's growing tremendous. Here's another good example, integrating circular economy practices. And here's a really smart restaurant in Finland called Nolla means zero. So they have 0 waste in their restaurant. So there's so many amazing people out there doing this already. And we need to collaborate and co-create. And the last example I want to give is circular gastronomy. I'm actually part of the advisory board, and it's an example. And where I think we should put our money at the moment is to innovation platforms. I mean, we need to re-educate people to become more aware of their inner development goals, because that's when they start acting. So that's how you can rethink and redesign. And I think I don't really have so much more time, but I for sure don't want an unsustainable future, because what does unsustainable mean? It means dead, right? If something is unsustainable, it's dead. I want a sustainable future, and to be able to get a sustainable future, we need to act way more than 15% of people working in globally. Research shows that only 15% of the people working globally actually take action and care and use their energy towards changing things. This is depressing for me. We need to get together and really start changing things. And wherever you are in the system, if you are a policymaker, you need to become more creative. I think we need to start schools for creative bureaucrats. We need to really change the way we think, the way we act, the way we trust each other. So therefore, I'm going to finish off. Let's together turn shit into some good compost, because we need to change the food systems now, you guys. And to get there spells together. So thank you for me. And I leave the floor open for questions. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Fia. What an inspiration. And I do have a new title for you. I will tell you later.
Okay.
Listening to you.
And I have to say, my company is Food in Action, and it's actually FIA is the acronym of my country. So you have to become your company, you have to become your vision, right?
Oh, that's clever. I didn't figure that out, but yes, FIA, Food in Action. That's totally you.
Yeah.
Since I've seen you in action. Thank you very much. I'm looking if we have some questions, and in the meantime, I think you've told us a lot of what you think, but how can we change these current food systems if we only have 15% of people around or organizations taking action? What is your point of view? How do we catalyze for more action?
Yeah, I totally think it becomes to the inner working on the inner development goals. And I would really love to share, I can't really share it, but there is a organization active now and it's growing so much. And they are also the founders of the 29K app. If you look at the inner development goals, there is a lot about what I've already used in the potato method. It's about thinking, it's so much wonderful to give rather than to receive. Our whole economic system is kind of based on us to become narcissists and totally isolated from everyone else. But we need to change. We need to do that shift. So I'm going to totally stress the inner development goals to actually change the systems that we actually built. The outside, we focus too much on the outside now.
Yes, I totally agree. And actually, if for you interested, the inner development goals is a movement, I would say.
Yeah.
That a lot of companies based on academy, based in Sweden, but actually they promote, like, with the inner development goals, you can reach the SDGs much better.
Yeah.
Actually, it's the only way of doing it. So,
I think it is the only way. And when I look back at my kind of what I've done the past 35 years ago, when I started thinking about how can I change this world to make it better for my kids, I actually started meditating at that time. I learned TM. And the thing is, I would never have been able to motivate so many people to start all these companies, projects, festivals. All these ideas that I launched actually changes the world. But it's not just me doing it. It's me putting new potatoes in the ground.
yeah, that's true.
So if I can do it, coming from the middle of the nowhere, being a single mom, when my eldest daughter was 7 months, anyone can do it. Sure.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we need to take more responsibility. I mean, inner development, take responsibility,
Actually, indeed, I totally agree. Thank you very much for sharing this with us, Fia, and stay tuned and be active on the chat if you want to.
I will.
And we now move on to the next speaker. And our next session focuses on food waste in tourism. Food is a key element to the tourism experience and a precious resource. And how we handle food has significant economic and social and environmental impacts. So tackling food loss and waste is therefore crucial, and both for the people, the planet, and prosperity. I'm pleased to introduce now Virginia Fernandez Trapa. She is the program coordinator for the Sustainable Tourism and Resilience Department at UN Tourism. She is responsible for implementing initiatives addressing global challenges such as climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution within One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program. A lot of words there. With that, please, Virginia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Carla, for the introduction, and to you and the team for the invitation to participate in the webinar and share a bit what we have been up to in terms of food waste in tourism. Fundamental challenge that we have to address as fast as possible and as thoroughly as possible. As we heard it from Fia, collaboration is fundamental. And when we look at things from a global perspective, which is what we do in UN Tourism, one of the things we thought could be useful was to translate complexity into, I cannot say simplicity, but at least a more structured way forward. How do we provide action frameworks for people to take action in a consistent manner? And that's why we developed the roadmap that I have the pleasure to be introducing today. This global roadmap on food waste reduction is part of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program, which, Carla, you mentioned in the beginning. We also focus on climate action. We also focus on plastics. And this umbrella of One Planet is actually a partnership in itself, where we collaborate closely with the United Nations Environment Program. Next, please. So what is our vision for food in tourism? A key resource and a key part of the experience. Basically, we want food production and consumption to occur in a sustainable loop, minimizing waste, and of course, maximizing resource efficiency and the benefits for people. So it's about making it holistic. It is about bringing everyone on board, and let's see how we can advance towards this vision, which, as you see, is also rooted on the principles of circularity. Next, please. The figures are a bit scary, I have to say, as to where we stand in terms of sustainable food systems. Basically, sustainable food systems are the primary driver of biodiversity loss in the world as of today, because of the massive amount of land and water and other resources that are put into producing food. When we look at, for example, greenhouse gas emissions from the food system, it is 34% of greenhouse gases globally that are produced because of making food for us to eat. And then if we think about the footprint of food waste, taking into account that more or less a third of food is wasted, we are talking about 8 to 10% of greenhouse gases, only because of throwing food. And obviously these impacts cannot be neglected. And if we continue business as usual, food loss and waste are going to increase by 60%, representing a loss of 1.5 trillion, and of course not putting our humanity in a very good path. Next slide, please. Now, when we look at tourism, we see, in correlation with the food value chain, we see that our sector is placed in a unique position. We are a sector that is belonging to the category of food service, and this is one of the stages, let's say, the last stages of the food value chain, which basically means that we have the potential to influence directly everything that connects with consumption, with food service, with waste, even with retail. And then we also have the possibility to influence indirectly all the previous stages of the value chain. It is also important to take into account that by the time the food reaches tourism, food has accumulated so many impacts and so much expenses. All the money that has been put into producing it and going down the food value chain until it reaches tourism has been accumulated there. All the impacts, environmental ones, have been accumulated there. If we throw food when it reaches tourism, the impact is really massive. So we have to make sure that we minimize the food going to landfill. Next, please. What about the impacts or where do we stand in terms of food waste in tourism? Unfortunately, I don't have a precise figure of food waste to share with you. This is not being measured at the global level so far, but we can think of, for example, approximately 80 billion meals served annually for tourists, taking into account domestic and international overnight stays. Figures are of 2019, but we're almost back to pre-pandemic levels, so that should be a figure that can serve us today, at least to open the eyes. So 80 billion meals served annually. What if we are doing the same as the global average? Are we throwing a third of 80 billion global meals? That is certainly horrendous. Look at some of the data on the slide. For example, the first bullet point tells you that food service contributes 26% of all food wasted at consumption stage. That's approximately 32 kilos per person per year. This data is from the food waste index that the colleagues in UNEP are monitoring on an annual basis with data from different countries. So, I mean, Carla, you said it in the intro, by tackling food waste, we can actually deliver environmental, social, and economic benefits if we do it right. We can reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we can lower operational costs, and we can, of course, support people that need food. Let's not forget that today still 1 out of 9 people go to bed hungry. Next, please. We also looked at policies, of course, in our work to understand where do we stand in terms of national tourism policies. And we saw that, yes, as we know, food is important for tourism. So pretty much every strategy mentions food. But how do we speak about food? Excuse me. We speak about food from a competitiveness point of view. This is an asset of our destination. This is something which is going to attract people to my destination. That is great, fair enough. But they are not speaking about food as a transformational element, which is what we're really advocating for now. When we look at the policies a bit more granular approach, we see that procurement appears in 46% of the policies, and you can see the figures on the slide. Waste only appears in 12% of the policies, and we don't have that approach of, okay, let's manage better my food because then I can shift, I can transform the whole value chain towards more sustainability. Next, please. So why did we decide to anchor our food waste roadmap in food waste, our global roadmap on food waste? Because actually, of course, you saw in the slide with the policies, it is under addressed, and also happens to be a cross-cutting element across all the, like, let's say, stages of how we process food in tourism. So we procure food, there can be food waste from procurement. We prepare food, there can be food waste when we prepare it. We consume food, there can be food waste when we consume it. And of course, then there is all the waste management element where we can apply valorization processes and so on. So basically, we think that by managing better, by managing more sustainably food in tourism, our sector can make a contribution to more sustainable food systems, which ultimately is what our society needs. Next, please. So the global roadmap was born bearing all that in mind, and obviously trying to address SDG target 12.3, which, as you know, is the target in the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, which specifically speaks about food waste and tells us that basically food waste needs to be halved by 2030. Next, please. And the roadmap proposes, as I said in the beginning, an action framework so that we can all align and advance in a consistent manner, which will lead to better results. So first, element of the hierarchy of action would be to prevent food. The most important is that food doesn't happen and that food surplus doesn't happen. There are a lot of techniques and recommendations in the roadmap to support stakeholders doing so. Second step, when food surplus couldn't be avoided, let's redistribute it. Let's try to redistribute it to people in need first, and otherwise to animal feed, where regulation permits this. And then once all those first two steps of the hierarchy have been followed, let's try to minimize the amount of food waste going to landfill, and let's use circular approaches that can help us compost, anaerobic digestion, generate energy, etc., so that the disposal is minimized to landfill. Next, please. As I said, I mean, the hierarchy is basically rooted on the waste management hierarchy. We didn't invent this hierarchy. This hierarchy has been in waste management for years, but we are now transporting it to tourism stakeholders which are not necessarily versed on these waste management, schools of thought, theories, etc. So as you see, prevention, diversion are fundamental. And there on the right, you can see where circular approaches apply to the different stages. Next, please. And allow me I changed the slide, but I realized I forgot something. Basically, what is important to keep in mind is that circularity is great. It's going to help us minimize the amount of food going to landfill, but we need to think about it as a subsidiary strategy. The priority goes to prevention. We cannot just throw food because it's going to be made compost. No, priority goes to prevent. And then when prevent and redistribute have been completed, we can integrate circularity. Thank you so much. The roadmap presents some, let's say, targets for accommodation and for cruise lines. For the time being, is addressed more to this type of stakeholders, although we think that policymakers can also make use of it and other entities in our sector. But let's say the two key players that the roadmap is being addressed to are accommodation providers and cruise lines. You see there the targets are focusing on prevention and also on diversion. Next, please. In addition to that, we are in alignment with others doing work in the field. So, for example, something called Champions 12.3, which is a coalition of governments and other entities, and they follow the Principles Target Measure Act. So the roadmap is also aligned with those, and we provide recommendations on the different steps, how they can be implemented. Next, please. The targets are using different metrics that you can see on the screen. We had a lot of debate with the colleagues on the metrics because, I mean, yes, it's true. The global roadmap has targets that are more, I would say, policy making targets, like, for example, food waste per guest day or night, or food waste per annum, etc., like absolute targets and intensity targets. But these are more policy oriented, I would say, or corporate management oriented. The colleagues really working on the ground, doing the measurement, really called for additional metrics to be taken on board, like for instance, food waste per cover, which is really what gives you the granularity when you're in a hotel operation to understand where you need to change the practice. So our proposal is try to combine both, if you can, the more corporate management that would allow you to benchmark at higher level, and the more practitioner one. And then just to finish, next please, of course, circularity approach, procurement is a fundamental aspect. So the roadmap is complemented by a series of fact sheets on procuring food sustainably, which basically are eye-openers for the impacts of different types of food, climate issues, etc., etc. Next, and I'd like to invite you to learn more about the roadmap. You will find there levers for scaling up food waste reduction, one of which of course, is maybe a limitation of the roadmap, which is the national policies that we definitely need to complement. And another one, which is a very interesting one to look at, is the climate action element. How can this food waste reduction become a climate action agenda? The others I had mentioned throughout the presentation, so I will not repeat. And I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Virginia, for that comprehensive overview. And if FIA touched my heart and inspired me to act now, I was overwhelmed with a lot of facts, a little bit frightened, but also thankful for framing something and doing something very difficult more understandable. So thank you very much, Virginia. And I do have a question from the chat here. And it goes like, how do you think we can change the policies so the action framework becomes more valuable and attractive for all stakeholders?
Thank you. Thank you for a very good question. I mean, changing policies takes time. You know, policy cycles are not happening every year, not every 2 years. What we're trying to do with the roadmap is to already plant the seed so that the policymaker sees, by looking at the industry-driven action, they see this transformational element that I alluded to. Like, food is not just competitiveness, food is sustainability. And I can trigger changes along the value chain. I can localize my value chain. I can bring value to my local communities through food. Once policymaker really is able to integrate this into the tourism policy, we will all be able to advance faster. So what we're trying to push is for food to be positioned and integrated as an element that can trigger more than economic value for the destination.
Yeah. This is so important and so difficult, because the value chain I keep in Sweden at ours, I always say the tourism comes last in the value chain, and we have such a long way, and we have to make each other conscious about it. So yeah. Well, thank you for that, Virginia. We will move over to the next session, and our third session offers a policymaker's perspective on reducing and preventing food waste. We will hear about the EU's actions to facilitate the hospitality sector and address challenges and solutions to food waste prevention and reduction in restaurants, with examples from across Europe. Our speakers for these sessions are two. Firstly, Ramone Genspigelite Ventore. She is the Policy Officer of Tourism at the European Commission, working in the Tourism and Textiles Unit of the Directorate General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs, or as we say, DG GROW. And our second speaker on this session is Ms. Marine Tyson, Public Affairs Manager at Hotrec, representing our hotels, restaurants, bars and cafes across all EU. Ramone, please begin your intervention.
Thank you very much, Carla. Good morning, everyone. I hope you had enough coffee following the election night for Europe, which is very important. You know, it will shape our future, and including the sustainability direction. So it is important. I also want to thank our European Tourism Expert Group for choosing this topic, which shows that it is really an important challenge from all perspectives, from economic, also from ecological, of course, and ethical point of view. I think we have heard already quite interesting insights, a very passionate personal dedication coming from really inside and from the root perspective, and also the global perspective. So we have a great picture, and I wanted to contribute here with European perspective. So I would start with a few figures here. Generally speaking, also the most recent European survey that was held in May shows that the attitudes of Europeans towards the environment are pretty strong. So the intention of the citizens to promote circular economy is really there, outstanding. However, from the attitudes to action, there is a gap, and we see that in the huge food waste figures at the consumption, and especially the households part. You probably know that in Europe, restaurants and food services represent 12 kilos per person per year, so that is 9%. It is much less than households, but still it is an important share. Last September, Eurostat reported for the second round of EU-wide monitoring and food waste levels, and actually the findings see that there is no sign of decline. So we confirm that the levels of food waste are more or less stable, unfortunately. And it shows that in 2021, the data collected by member states, over 58 million tons of food waste were generated annually, which stands about 131 kilo per inhabitant. And the market value we estimate is 132 billion euros. So the figures are impressive. And yes, as I mentioned, the greatest hotspot of food waste is at the consumption rate. And here we have also an important challenge to tackle the tourism value chain. These are the figures from the environmental perspective, from economical perspective as well. And there is an ethical dimension, of course, saying that at the same time, we have to keep in mind that there's a lot of people in Europe, not only in the developing world, but also in Europe, who cannot afford a high-value meal. So these challenges, I think, are enough for us to push ahead. So what does Europe does? How does it support the drive to reduce the food waste? So the policy basis is, of course, the European Green Deal that you know very well. This is our shared goal for the climate neutral Europe. We have farm to fork a strategy that is sustainable production and consumption of food, and food waste is one of the important pillars there. And of course, we're talking about tourism here. We have, for those who don't know yet, in the public listening to us, we have a transition pathway for tourism at the European level, which is really a roadmap agreed by the stakeholders and implemented by the stakeholders already for 2 years. And food waste is one of the actions enshrined there under the circularity action or topic. Now, what we do in Europe, how Commission is facilitating to tackle this challenge. So you probably know that at European level, we are now revising a Waste Framework Directive, which Commission proposed already last year in July. Now it is in the hands of the co-legislators. We propose a target there, a target for different industries, and we have proposed also a target to reduce by 30% per capita jointly at retail and consumption, both inside and outside the home, with certain reference years. So this is an important push, a legal obligation that will hopefully come once it is adopted. But at the same time, we try to support, of course, with multiple measures, this transition And here is an idea. Let's say that next to the legal obligations, we do have a support for the common methodology, how to measure food waste. We do have an EU platform on food losses and food waste, and our industry, tourism industry, is also part of it. We try to facilitate the food donation with certain guidelines and optimizing many other processes. I know we have little time, so I speed up a little bit. Another example is a toolkit that shows how to reduce consumer food waste from European Consumer Food Waste Forum. You can check in the website. There is really a lot of interesting tools. There is an action planner. There is a calculator. There are some tutorials, informative leaflets, and it's all in all languages. So that's quite a rich resource. We also support the action with a financial support, so with the funding. And I'm happy to share that we have launched under the Single Market Program of EU a call for the projects to reduce food waste. So there is a call that is open until 25th of September. Please go and check the link. I cannot go into the details because of the lack of time, but really it's an important boost, I think. And also we have a food loss and waste prevention hub. So this is a website to which you can subscribe and receive information and also contribute. And I will go to the next slide. Usually, often all actions start at the local level, at the very grassroots. So in Europe, we also have the so-called urban agenda. For the EU, this is an intergovernance approach, and we do have different topics there that we tackle. So, for example, we have a very recent topic on food, and food waste will obviously be part of it. And there is another topic on sustainable tourism. So you see the two are linked, of course. This is mainly for partners at the urban level, so the cities, and we do hope that they will propose interesting actions and they will learn from each other and exchange on the good practice. So these are the running partnerships, and you will see if you go to the websites of both partnerships, eventually you will see also concrete action plans. Also a couple of projects that are supporting food waste prevention in hospitality specifically. So I would like to refer you to Turisma. This is a project that set up different guidelines, and it's quite an interactive approach also. You can see here an image of restaurants that you can click on a different link and access different guidances and recommendations. Another project, Rest with EU, it was also supporting some digital tools for tourism, including restaurant sector. So also very useful and important to say that, of course, stakeholders, if you take restaurants or hotels, they're not in a position alone to make a change. We have heard that we need a mentality shift of consumers, but in terms of businesses, I think it's important also to connect with the startups, such as in technology, right? So you can really implement these innovative solutions, and European Union is really supporting this. Finally, I leave you with a few sites where you can check more information on food waste concretely. And also, if you can see here, you can subscribe to our newsletter where we regularly inform our stakeholders on the developments in the tourism ecosystem. Sorry if I was fast, but I know that we have little time and a lot to share, and I welcome questions and further discussions. Back to you, Carla.
Thank you, Ramona. Thank you a lot for this. Very informative as well. And as we see, we have a lot of tools and so, but we also need help to turning into practice. And now let's go with you, Marine Tyson. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all the very powerful women who spoke before me. So I will try to be as good as a potato conscious. I'll do my best. So here I'm representing OTREC. We are the European Association representing hotels, restaurants, bars, cafes, and late nights in Europe. So Ramone told you almost everything you need to know about how the EU is supporting the industry and tourism in general to reduce and prevent food waste. So I'll just focus on a few points because it's a very short 5 minutes I was allocated. But I wanted to give you a bit more on the specificities of our industry. Because I think it's very important to understand the issue we are talking about today. Some challenges, obviously, and then opportunities and solutions. So if we can click next, please. So we're talking about restaurants, family businesses mostly, 2 million establishments if we include hotels and accommodation. 89% of the businesses we represent are micro enterprises, okay? So it's less than 10 employees, and on average for a restaurant, it can be 4 to 5 full-time equivalent employees, and sometimes it's less than that, obviously. The offer is extremely heterogeneous, from farm type restaurants in the middle of nowhere in Sweden, if we listen to FIA, to a large brasserie in the center of Vienna, in the city center, to a beach club who provides some small type restoration on the beach in an island in Greece, which has to deal with the high changes in terms of population of tourists also, which brings another element in mind. So it's extremely heterogeneous. The restaurants we represent, they tend not to have standardized meals and procedures because they're not chains, so they don't replicate most of the time. It's overall recipes from another to another. The menu changes, it comes with the season, with the local products, with the suppliers. So that has also an impact on how much you can anticipate, how much you can reduce, you can prevent, etc., etc. And again, maybe I will sound like a broken record because we often say that, but all businesses are businesses. They have to be profitable, otherwise they die. And in the current context, I'm not going to go very long on that because you all know inflation, war, rising energy costs, difficulty to find staff. Most of our establishments are not operating 100% of the time anymore because they have to close due to staff issues. And the food-led business tend to have a very high difficulty to have high profit margins. In a situation like this, increasing costs, they cannot pass on the cost onto the consumers, the clients. They can to a certain extent, but they cannot ask you for 40 euros for a burger and fries. Also, again, the prices vary a lot from Sweden to Greece to Brussels. At some point, we cannot, okay? So that's also something we have to bear in mind. Yes, please, thanks. So I look at the challenges now, and I just wanted to, this picture was included to just reflect on what Ramune said just before between the differences between attitudes of consumers and actual action. So this is the salad you wish you would order if you go to lunch today at a restaurant. But the next picture, the next slide, is actually what you might be ordering. So this illustrates some of the challenges at a restaurant and business we have to deal with in terms of conflicting demands. And of course, most of our business operators, they are aware that the consumers have changed their mindset, and the business operators have changed their mindset themselves too. They want to use more local products, more organic, be mindful all these new sustainable practices. But you don't come to us to be fed. Otherwise, you stay at home or you go to another type of establishment. You come to us also to live a moment and live and be in a generosity in terms of offer and what you get. So it's just something we have also to bear in mind when we engage on this topic with our operators. And if we move on to this very delicious but a bit early on picture, I would also wanted to bring on in the challenges the conflicting policies. And we could have many examples, but at the EU level, of course, we are talking about food waste reduction targets. We as OTREC, the European Association, we've been engaging with the European Commission and DG Santé on this for way before it was published, and we support most of the aspect and the action. We have some elements that we can discuss, but we don't have time for that today. But on the other hand, the EU has been regulating highly on reducing the volume of packaging. very good. But then sometimes in an establishment, in a business ecosystem, in a kitchen, both goals don't go along. So reducing packaging, sometimes packaging is made for a reason to better protect products, food items, and make sure the shelf life of a product is maintained as for a longer time, etc. So this is also something to consider when we look at this. Operational issues, again, the space in a small kitchen, small restaurants is very important when we talk about managing food waste. Measuring, where do you put all the equipment, where do you make sure hygiene, safety standards are not put at risk when you have this type of management of waste in the kitchen. Time and resources, we talked about staff. Staff needs to be trained. So that's maybe something we could have added to Ramone's list about what the EU and national authorities could do. Supporting trainings at every level, every time we can, of staff, of chef, of business operators. It's absolutely key. And the last challenge was monitoring food waste, measuring as such. And we agree with the saying, you cannot monitor what you don't measure. But in a very small setting, actually quality assessment of the plate when it comes back from the client to the kitchen. If it's a small kitchen, the chef will have a look at the plate, and they do that. And I've been talking last week with a chef who actually, every time he puts a new dish on the menu, he will for a week make sure to look at every plate that come back to the kitchen from that dish, and he will reassess what to put or not in that plate if there is too much weight from one or the other product. So we could also find some quality monitoring ways. Next, yes, please. So just solutions, you're well aware. Raising awareness is something we need to do at every level. Demand forecasting for restaurants, making sure they can anticipate as much as they can how many people will come for dinner. Since COVID, it's much more difficult. People tend to book less in advance. No shows are a big issue in restaurants. People book and don't come. And then you end up with a batch of food that was meant to be eaten and it's left on your deck. Stock management, of course, monitoring food waste, monitoring plate waste, and food donation is something Ramone touched upon. That's something which is difficult in a small and restaurant setting because of small batches, small portions of food. It's not that easy. And we do collaborate with food banks, but it's not as easy as in the retail sector. So
Thank you, Marie.
Yeah. Maybe just 10 seconds, because I was given less time than the others.
Yes.
Two solutions I wanted to show you from Spain. So it's a solution that was put in place by a hotel in our membership in Tenerife. They've invested in a system, artificial intelligence scale and camera to monitor the food waste on buffet in a hotel breakfast setting. So it's something very common in the touristic sector. It was an investment of 50,000 euros. It's been a pilot project for a year. So I don't have yet the earlier figures, but their objective is to cut food waste by 50% on the buffet. And this one is from the Italian FIPE association. They've just launched a new initiative to encourage Italian consumers to take food home. So what is badly referred to as doggy bag, which we refrain from using that because it's absolutely not encouraging. They've called it rimpiattino, which means replate. And basically, they use these boxes and encourage people in the restaurants to take food home. And they looked at some survey, and it says that a bit more than 50% of the consumers in Italy are not used to do that. So you can see also the cultural differences, again, from a country to another. I'll stop here. I'll be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Marine. And I have a question for you, and then we will go further. So Ramone, you will have at your conclusions, there are some other questions, but just to keep the timing. Marine, there is a question. Today is much more profitable to run as an unsustainable restaurant, as you showed. So what policy changes do you think are needed to make sustainable businesses more sustainable?
Well, for a start, I didn't say that. I didn't say that it was more profitable to run a non-sustainable
that.
business.
Okay.
No, that's not.
Then
And
we
if
understand.
apology if that's what people thought I said, but I did not say that. I just said that obviously when you need to make changes in your establishments, you need to invest. You need to invest time and resources, and the money saving you will save on the new practices and procedures you'll implement in your kitchen will come, but not on the short term. So you need to be able to bear the cost of the changes, of the training, etc., etc. So that's something maybe it's been clarified.
Good.
And again, some businesses are pioneers in our membership. Fia, I think, mentioned Nola in Helsinki, which is a Finnish restaurant in our membership, part of our association Mara. These guys, they've been doing everything they could, from installing a compost within the restaurant. So inside the restaurant, guests can see them throw away the waste of the plates. And it's been, a very bold choice. And they've made very risky choices in their establishments, as many others do in our membership. And now the question is, how can we help them, right? Those who are not there yet. At the moment, I would say, again, it's different from a restaurant to another, but loads of our restaurants are really just trying to survive today. And it's not because I want to cut the fun, but really the bankruptcy level for the last year, and I mentioned the price, cost, etc. They are just trying to survive. So I know that cutting food waste will help them save money, but not on the short term. They have absolutely no right even to dedicate some mindset, brain time to that. So perhaps they need to be accompanied, yes, by external consultants who come and dedicate their time to accompany them. Some bigger structures, they have consultants dedicated to that, to improving practices. The smaller ones, they absolutely don't have that.
Yes,
So
thank
just
you.
realize this, yeah.
I understand, and thank you for the clarification, Marine. I know you won't be able to stay at the final, so thank you very much for your appearance here and sharing with you. I'm moving on to the next session, and now with Marine, I also start up the session of our best practice cases. So we will see 3 cases from the tourism industry that have successfully integrated food waste management practices and perspectives from different parts in the tourism value chain. Our speakers for these sessions are Els Maria Kulama. She is the Director of Operations at Fotografiska in Tallinn and will show us a hands-on example of how to run a net zero restaurant. We have also Benedikt Sangele, CEO and founder of Sangele Kuchen Consulting, will show us how to monitor and actually have a tool for reducing the food waste management and the food waste. And last but not least, Thomas Candil, project manager at the International Food Waste Coalition, with a lot of best practices and interesting perspective as well. So please, Els Maria, the floor is yours, and share with us.
Yes, I will share my screen shortly, and I will just ask you if everything's in order. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so thank you so much for everyone. It has been really informative, and especially Marine for a really good overview. I'm glad that we are very much on the same page. So today I'm going to share you the journey of Fotografiska Tallinn. Our concept is really similar to Nolla that was mentioned several times already today. So I will share the story in theory and practice, how to manage, how to start, and how to stay a sustainable restaurant nowadays. So I'm gonna quick show you a video because we just celebrated our 5th birthday. And it was a series of events, parties full of joy, tears of joy, beautiful tastes, and mind-blowing art, because Fotografiska is first and foremost an art museum. Unfortunately, the video stopped. Okay, I'll show it over here. First and foremost, an art museum, but not a regular museum. We welcome loud discussions around art that moves us. We welcome you to share a glass or two in the exhibition hall, and we use beautiful power of food, experience, and entertainment to draw attention to deep problems in our society and nature, all that managed sustainably. So Fotografiska is a Swedish brand. So you might say, why Tallinn? Because it was the first branch out of Stockholm. Nowadays we have Fotografiska museums in Berlin, New York, Shanghai, and Stockholm. But yeah, Tallinn was the first branch out and the only one still working as a franchise. So how come we were given this beautiful chance to inspire a more conscious world with this powerful brand? I'd say that we are a small city, but a great one as well. I like to think that we are used to trying harder and we are more open to adapt. So when making a change, we can make work faster, the impact than big cities. Living in scarcity during Soviet times and in the beginning of our own republic, and let's face it, the weather can be challenging as well. So all that has made us tough. Cooking without waste is the only way we know how to cook. Many Estonians, even the city, grow some of their food. We go foraging, we make jams, pickle mushrooms, cucumbers, etc. So we took a chance to make it feel like Fotografiska here in Tallinn. So when we kicked off, we were really elevated and anxious, and we thought that it's a so cool concept, the zero waste. There wasn't anything like that on the market in Estonia, and we thought that they probably, the guests then, have all been waiting for us. We will do everything our grandparents did, but better, tastier, more good looking. We will cook so that nothing is wasted, and crowds will come and be inspired. Zero waste, hooray! But boy, were we naive. Of course, there have always been some trusty followers, but overall, well, people do not want to hear the word waste when celebrating in a restaurant. Here is our most famous dish. We have had several versions of it. It's called the compost baked onion, in which all of the onion is used. We make broth from the skins, chips from onion tops, and used skins are made into compost, same as for nolla, and we bake the onion in compost. So it's juicy on the inside and crunchy on the outside. We even brought the dish at the table with a bowl of compost to illustrate the cooking process. Cooking without waste, it all starts with the menu, because you have to create dishes in which you can use everything. This is a wonderful product, sourdough bread. Soft when freshly cooked and so fragrant, a beautiful example of a life cycle of a product that I'm going to show you now. We can make sandwiches from it the other day. You can even reheat it actually, and it will be soft again when you buy it home. When not served, we dry it, we mill it, and it can become gnocchi or any other pasta. We even make lager beer from not served bread loaves. And for some of the flour, it will become starter for the next sourdough batch. So as you may have understood, we work with many menus actually. What really brings the circle together, that luckily we have next to our restaurant a cafe, bakery, catering service, lunch offer. It keeps us flexible to use all of the produce. Letting everyone contribute makes it their business not to create waste. If something is not used in the restaurant, we try to find use for it in the cafe or vice versa. And of course, the bar. What clever minds we have working at the bar. We have used many different skins and scraps. Watermelon, grapefruit peels, orange peels, pineapple, all kinds of spices already once used, to name a few. But it takes everyone in the house to keep these standards. So whatever our staff, waste management our staff's waste management habits are from home, we need to get them on board from day one. And getting people on board is only possible when they believe they can make a difference. So we have trips to our farms. Here's our head chef, Peter Bihal, showing Employee of the Month, a chick. So we make workshops for schools, theoretical and practical, and we make tours for other restaurants and explain our every little move. We weigh our leftovers to see what changes month to month. Of course, it was harder to find ways to use scraps, bones, screens, and etc. So using what is usually left behind was what we as a team were the most proud of, because every team member really is on board in cutting waste. So we shared our effort with bright eyes. Here is another beautiful dish from our autumn menu, carrot tops ice cream. And when the service was explaining the cooking process, what we do with scraps, what will become of compost, our guests were like, but where's the carrot itself? And we had developed the reputation of cooking with only waste. So we realized that something in our action was off and we were not getting our customers on board. So what did we change? In our actions, we did not change one bit. We kept on using everything, but the mindset was different. We stopped talking about waste because it's not wasted until it is wasted, because it's not waste until it's wasted. And wasting we did not. Rather, we closed the circle and found the farmland where we can take that little that our composter turned into compost in 24 hours, where it as a fertile compost can grow our new veggies. So we have 2 farmlands now that we can take our compost to. So the learning point has been that we have to be where our customers are. We still find clever ways to use what usually is not used and inspire others rather with our actions, not words. Our words are more humble and let the wonderful produce, not wasted, speak for themselves. Because the more people we get on board, the bigger the impact. I tend to remind myself this quote by Anne-Marie Bonneau often. We don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. And what has been effective on my staff is that if not for the planet, do it for your morning coffee and chocolate, because these are the areas that will soon be desertified if we don't stop wasting. Thank you. Back to you, Carla.
Thank you very much, Els, and what a beautiful example of the inner development goals in practice, actually. So thank you very much. And let's go forward to the next speaker. Please, Thomas, the floor is yours. No, Benedict. It was Benedict. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. It's too late for good morning. I'm very glad to be part of this platform so I can represent Austria here. So thank you very much. I like to say, Maria from Hottrack, you spoke out of my heart. You pointed out everything I want to do in my management. So please take the next slide, please. My name is Benedikt Zangler. I was born on the 14th of August 1966 in Austria, in Tyrol, in Galtür. And I'm a trained chef with almost 40 years of experience in leading positions and in my own companies. So I was self-employed over many years. And in 2013, I founded Küchen Consulting. Since that, I set my focus on food waste management. I did it earlier, but it became a very strong focus on my work. Above all, I'm a certified hygiene manager, educated trainer, and coach. The only employee in my company is my wife, Bridget. Together, we handle the food waste management, and she is also my backup in the office. And she's a very, very necessary part in my game. The next slide, please. The focus of my work lies on process automation in the kitchen. This includes the whole kitchen management and, of course, food waste management. Until today, we supported over 120 companies in food waste management. I also provide procurement management. It's a very important issue for saving food waste. We evaluate kitchen businesses and support the teams with hands-on guidance, workshops, and incentives. Next slide, please. Let me give you some food facts. Did you know that every food in Europe is averagely transported over the distance of 2,000 kilometers? And did you know that it takes 18,000 liters of water to produce 1 kilogram of meat, of 1 kilogram of beef? And did you know that in every steak with a weighing of 300 grams, 7 liter fossil oil is placed in? So I think that's one of the key facts. We have to reduce our meat consumption. I think I'm no vegetarian, of course not, but I don't think we have to eat meat every day. And did you know that it takes 10,000 liters of water to produce 1 kilogram of avocado, and 40,000 hectares of rainforests are destroyed every year for that? So everyone says it's very healthy and it's sustainable. No, it isn't. So I don't think we should eat every day an avocado. Let me give you some overview about food waste in Austria. In Austria, about 175,000 tons of food are wasted every year. We have about 9 million citizens, and we just a moment, please. I have lost my and we generate about 150 million overnight stays in tourism, and this has a very, very big impact on food waste. Our current saving potential in hotels and restaurants, we found, is about 40,000 euro a year. So we have a program in Austria. It's called Küchenprofit, and it's financial support in Austria. This was founded in 2015. But what can we do? First of all, we take a look at the storage. A lack of system and control, as shown on this picture, please, the next picture, please, is one of the main causes of high food waste, of a high food waste rate. We reorganize the whole process. Next picture, please. Did you know that up to 15% of the bought food in the restaurants and hotels are spoiled in storage, or be sold undervalued due to poor control? So if you buy champion avocados and they are not fresh anymore, you cannot sell it to the price you have to get on. Next, please. We also take a close look how the food is prepared. In many kitchens, the awareness of this topic is due to the shortage of employees and the lack of qualification getting worse. So, Maureen, this is what you said. We train the kitchen teams hands-on to avoid unnecessary food waste. The next one, please. This slide shows you what immense potential lies in reducing food waste. These actual photos from my food waste management. In addition, the ethical aspect of becoming increasingly important to us and to our customers. So if you throw a piece of salmon away, it was a living thing once again. So we have to keep that in mind. The next, please. Buffets are of any kind create, in most cases, a huge amount of avoidable food waste. Too big plates and too big offers, too much unnecessary decorations, and the lack of care of awareness are the main reasons. We reorganize buffets, and we set standards in cooperation with the kitchen teams. Additionally, we train the employees on more awareness to this issue. So awareness is a very, very big issue, and everything, and especially on buffets. The next one, please. This one is maybe someone's dream. For us, it's a nightmare. Apart from the optics, serving sizes have a huge impact on food waste. If you downsize the size of a plate by 2 centimeters and the serving size about 20%, the food waste will return on 30%. In most cases, the customer doesn't recognize that. You can do it very, very smart. The next one, please. Okay, we measure the output of food per outlet for 1 day from the start of the business until closing. So we are over the whole time in the kitchen, sometimes about 18 hours. These are long days. At the end of the day, we compare the output quantity to the return quantity. To obtain a usable result, we divide the return quantity into 7 divisions. As you see, in meat and fish, satiety products, vegetable and fruits, dairy products, soups, sweets and desserts, and some others. And every chart is underlined with a different value. So we have on this slide a practice example. On the top, you see we have been supporting a 4-star Superior Hotel in Bavaria since 2022. And we recorded the food waste potential for the first time in January 2023. You see on the top side, as you can see, they had the saving potential about 100,000 euro per year. In January 2024, we did the same again with the following results. Please, the next slide. We had about 100 clients or guests and about 20 people staff, and it was both times the same, almost the same. We reduced the breakfast output almost a half, lunch by a third, dinner over a half, and the staff about a third. So the output between 2023 and 2024 was reduced by 48%. We had a saving potential about 82,000 euros more. So it was very, very, how should I say, it was, I didn't expect it. We have good practice examples, but this one is very, very outstanding. But we save approximately in the first year about 50%. The next one, please. So how we did it? We were raising awareness. This was one of the main reasons why we could do this. We managed it with training and coaching over the whole year. We restructured and organized all buffets new. So everything, we turned every stone over. One of the key facts, I don't know, it was very, very important to minimize the sizes of the portions. We reorganized the whole production process, including blast chilling and blast freezing. We gave a lot of guidance and support. And of course, it was very important to get the people to do self-control. And this worked very, very well. So it was really, really a good example how we do it. Yes, the last, please. So this is one of our practice examples. Thank you for your attention, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Benedict. Such a good example. I mean, with the facts, you can actually sense the sense of urgency and why we have to turn this 15% of making action to much more people. And this is obviously giving us good examples to show. I listened to a chef once that said, in a restaurant bin, there are only 2 things. There is money and there is time. And both you can take away with managing it correctly. So
yes,
thank you very much. Also, I'm receiving on the chat, amazing to see your numbers, Benedict. So this is something very useful for the whole tourism, all of us stakeholders. Thank you. And now we proceed with
Thank you much.
Yes. We proceed with the last best practice. Thomas, are you there?
I am.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you to all for the presentations that you've done. So I try to add one piece there, trying to get maybe a little further into details into what it takes to measure and monitor food waste in a kind of standardized way for the hospitality sector. I work for the International Food Waste Coalition. It's a non-profit, and basically we work with so Accor and Best Western in the hospitality sector, Sodexo, Elior, and Compass for the mass catering sector, and some solution providers like LeanPass or Bisq and Winnow who help to track food waste in daily operation of these companies. And so together, our goal is first to have common measurement methodologies implemented in order to track the progress on food waste reduction as a coalition collectively. Then, thanks to our data and analysis, we try to identify common challenges and common solutions to be tested, and we want to share the learnings and share the resources with anyone in the sector who is interested in just trying to make a change and improve and reach the SDG target 12.3. And we operate mostly in Europe, but we collect data from all over the world. So my presentation is really focused on our core activity, which is about measuring and reporting food waste collectively. As an introduction, I would say that for hotels, we've seen numbers even beyond 1.8 kilogram per cover, so per meal of food waste. And so this is hard to understand how you can waste kind of 3 times the weight of a standard meal, but this is actually possible depending on your context operation. And you can also waste 10 grams per cover, for example, on some breakfast. And even within those 10 grams, you can have mostly inedible parts, like orange peels, for example. So actually measuring is really the starting point to understand exactly where you are and what is the potential savings for you, and what you can improve. So in order to measure, I'm going to present a couple of practices. First, the scope of measurement. Second, I will talk about the different, let's say, quality levels or quality standards. And then I will try to also highlight what are the challenges and what best practices can be used to reduce food waste after we presented the food waste measurement. So the scope. As a site, an outlet, a restaurant, you want to understand first what is the material type that you're going to measure. So food, it includes both the edible and the associated inedible parts of food. So you want to measure both of them. Ideally, you can have, let's say, an indicator, a ratio of what is the share of the edible part of food in your food waste. But that requires much more granular types of weighing, and it's not easy. It's very time and resource consuming. Second, the hotel area that you want to cover is something important. In some hotels, you have many restaurants. Some are open to the public. Some are exclusively for the guests who have booked a room in your hotel. Some have also event activities. So it's not easy to measure food waste on 100% of your hotel area. So you must define what are the key areas where you want to start and what are the areas that you want to bring on board later. in order to have a global picture of the entire food waste that is produced in your hotel. Then you got to define the metric in order to follow the food waste. We've seen in the example of Benedict, he uses the kilogram. Actually, we prefer, as it has been mentioned by Virginia, using the grams per cover, which is a relative value, so you can compare the amount of waste to the number of guests that you have served, and we think it's a very reliable way to track your food waste. But that requires that you are able to actually track the number of guests that you are serving on a daily or the measurement period of time. So you need to be accurate on that, and that's not easy in all the context. Then the different food waste zones. This is also the scope. So after identifying the different hotels area, you need to go a bit deeper into, do you want to measure the food waste as soon as the storage step or the preparation in the kitchen, or you want also to include the service and the plate waste from consumers? So of course, if you want to have a picture of how much food you are wasting, you need to include all these areas. But sometimes that's not so easy, and so you can also like to focus more on one or the other zone and do progressively integrate different measurement campaign for specific zones. Then the food category. Let's be realistic. Some food category cannot be included in your daily food waste monitoring practices. If we take oils, if we take beverages, sometimes soups or sauces, it's very hard to integrate them, or even sometimes and in a yogurt pot, so that's going to be hard to integrate. So also be clear on what you can do and what you cannot do, and then on what you cannot do, once it is listed, it's important that you are able to find solution or justify why you have excluded them from your measurement scope. And finally, you also need to be aware about the different destinations for food waste. For example, let's consider that at the end of a breakfast service, you end up with extra bread, and this bread you are allowed to give it to your chickens. If you have some chickens in a garden in the hotel, for example, that actually would not be accounted as food waste because of the legal and institutional definition. So the destination might also impact the measurement of food waste. So these different, let's say, parameters, the material type, the metric, the food category, the hotel area, the food waste zones, and the destinations, they are going to help you define what you want to measure. And now, in how you can measure that, this is an example of different levels, because as it has been said by all the different presentations before, not all sites are equal in terms of available resources in order to tackle food waste. So this is why we here provide the opportunity to get the entry level, which is supposed to be less resources intensive in terms of how you can measure and monitor your food waste. So for that, only 2 days are required to do the minimum campaign duration. 1 day during the week and 1 day during the weekend, so you can get a better idea of the variation between the context of the week. For the intermediary level, this will be minimum a full business week. And then if you want to move to a really advanced level, if you're not measuring on a daily basis, some of the hotels do so, but it's quite resource intensive. You can do just 2 full weeks of measurement for one campaign. And then how many campaigns do you want to implement over a year? So the frequency, how many times you are going to measure your food waste over a year, that depends also. And it is adapted depending on the category, and you can read that here. Another very important practice that you get to pay attention is how you're going to quantify your food waste. So the quantification method is really important. So the first entry will be if you are already segregating your organic waste and you know that you have access to data from the organic waste collector and you know it's exclusively your food waste, so this is not mixed with some garden waste, for example, then maybe you can leverage this data, and so it's not an additional burden for the staff, and it's not very accurate data, but still it's a good way to start. And ideally you want to start the staff to have direct measurement and direct weighing, as Benedict has shown on his picture and presentation, because once the staff is really hands-on, so trying to take the bags and weighing them directly, it's really put them in a place where they can actually realize, they can also better understand the associated causes and where the food waste come from. And also the measurement is going to be a lot more accurate. And then you can also define different restaurant zone. As I said, ideally you want to cover 100% of your restaurant from the storage to the plate waste. But if you don't have the means, because you don't have someone that is available for each zone to allow the food waste segregation, then you can just define bigger zones. So pre-consumer, that will include storage, preparation, and service, and then post-consumer, which only include the plate waste, so the food that is actually served to consumers in their plate. And then you have the breakdown of the zones if you want to move forward in more accurate practices.
Thank you.
So this is to illustrate the different steps and the progressivity that you can use if you want to move forward in your journey of food waste measurement. The goal behind that is to show that you can start with a point of data that is not very accurate, but still is going to provide you with important information in order to allow you to understand your potential savings, and you can move to much more precise way of measuring your food waste, providing you with granular data that will allow you to understand what are the actions that you can actually implement and what are the priorities action that you can implement or should. So I'm gonna be fast on that. It's just an example saying that we started with 115 sites in 2021, and in 2023 we have already 1,200. So basically our members, they have managed to multiply by 10 the number of sites with compliant data with our methodology. So that's significant, and you can really, if you invest in training, if you understand why you do that and what it is going to bring in terms of benefits, then you can really adopt a fast action plan and try to solve the issue quickly. In terms of challenges, I think the most important is that you get to be clear with the staff. What is your goal and what they can do? So based on the available resources, you can decide what should be your target and what should be your goals and how you're going to do that. And then, of course, the need for training is really important, but not only training, but also how you can actually make everyone involved on a continuous basis. It's not because you are not within a campaign measurement, for example, that food waste is out of your mind. Food waste is something that, as a professional, you should have in mind for every service. And the way to do that is actually to have collective goals with clear responsibilities dispatched in the staff, and also to allow the staff to exchange and collectively discuss about what works, what could work, what haven't worked, and why. And so this is really important to be included in your measurement. And then let's maybe conclude saying these are the kind of action that are important in the hospitality sector. They have already been covered by the previous presentation. I would like to conclude just with 2 sentences saying that if you measure your food waste, you are able to understand why you are wasting food because you associate some causes with the food waste that you have measured usually. And this will allow you to understand first what is not optimized in your restaurant and also what customers didn't really appreciate or didn't have the time to appreciate. So it's also a way to improve globally how how people are satisfied with the food that you bring. If it ends up in the bin, it's because there is something wrong there, either because of the organization of the meal or because of the actual taste or of the food you bring. And so if you want to reduce food waste, you want to understand that and you want to act upon that. So hopefully it will help to just increase the customer satisfaction and so your business efficiency.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I have to break you there, but it was very instructive as well, and a lot of information and content has been said. We are moving on to the last session of some reflection. Actually, I know that you speakers might have a reflection on each other's and learnings, and also from the audience. Please be active on the chat. And I give the floor to you to just resume your reflections of this session for 2-3 minutes. And I have not any order planned, so please, if you feel, take the floor and then we go on. Or I just say a name. So maybe Fia, you were the first speaker out, so over to you, please.
Now my sound's on. Yeah, I have lots of questions. This is both for Benedict and Thomas. So I'm super impressed by your work and a lot of real profits, like non-monetary profit gains must have been reached. But have you also, and you of course increased awareness with your customers but has it also gained more monetary profits for your company?
For me, especially.
Perfect. Wonderful. Because I think what is wrong with our food systems is that they are, I mean, our businesses are built to maximize monetary profit. That's kind of how our systems are built. And then to reframe and understand that you can also gain more monetary profits by doing the change and the switch. That needs to be more to come out there, I think.
Yes, you're really right. I think it's one. I think we have to do more awareness, to start the business on more awareness, and come out on the financial side comes from itself. So I money is one thing. The ethical impact is the other.
Yeah.
But
by law, for instance, if you run a business in Sweden, by law, you have to make monetary profits. That's kind of by law. So my constant question inside, how can we set our systems? How can we make policies to nudge people into a green change, to nudge people? Because at the moment, the way our systems are built, it is actually more profitable money-wise, unless you have this high awareness, to run the business unsustainable.
Yes, it's a big question, and we only can do it step by step. We won't change it in one day. So,
but we need to hurry this up.
Yes.
That's for true. Thank you very much.
Let's
Yeah.
stick together.
Yes, that's for true. And that's why we have this kind of webinars. And this is a short 2 hours webinar,
Yes.
but this can also be the start of something. So take the advantage of taking connection with each other and so on. Els, what are your conclusions or your perspectives out of this?
Yeah, I wanted to add to Fia's question that I think the main challenge for micro businesses that restaurants usually are is that we don't have any funds. Our profit margins are so lean that we don't have any funds even to take a time off and think about the problem and start measuring everything. So if we would have like some toolkits, even an Excel table, so that there's someone who guides you through the system, what ways to weigh, what would be the guidelines, then even this would be helpful.
Yes, thank you.
I think the companies should have a little financial support from the yes, because it takes money to do this.
Yes.
It takes time to do this, and it would be fine if the companies would be supported by local authorities or the EU to manage this.
Thank you very much. And then I go forward to Virginia. What do you have any?
Carla, excuse me for interrupting. Just I shared in the chat the link to the Guardian of Grub. This is a kit that has been produced by RAP, and here you have an Excel template if you want to record your food waste data, but you also have like how you can start your journey on food waste reduction and different tools within this kit that will help you.
Perfect, Thomas. Since I have you on the so what are your marks for this session?
You were asking to Virginia?
No, but I had you on the floor, so I was asking Virginia, but since you're here, so I ask you as well now.
So you're making me very impolite to cut the floor to Virginia, but that's okay. I'm sorry. And I think just to come back on the business case, what is important is that in restaurants and hotels, actually the food procurement cost, they are not always monitored by kilogram. You know, they can be integrated in the overall accounting system of the hotel, and so it's hard for people to really get to what is the business case when they have some savings in their food waste. So for me, the key aspect of that is try to set the right indicators when you initiate your journey against food waste. Try to get the right indicators that will allow you to monitor your progression and what it means in terms of money, because it can sound very straightforward to say we have cut our food waste by 50%, and so we are supposed to have a higher margin now, but actually this is not so easy from the accounting standpoint, and unless you have the right indicators set at the beginning of your journey. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Thomas. And now, Virginia, over to you.
Thank you so much, Carla. Just to say that I've enjoyed it very much, listening to all the colleagues. I think it was super, super enriching. When it comes to tools, I would like to invite everyone once more to check the global roadmap. It may seem theoretical, but it does have a lot of tables with recommendations and also links to tools, including Excel sheets, for example, from the WWF methodology, from Guardians of Grub, which Thomas just mentioned, and other, let's say, entities which we found were quite interesting for the resources that they put together for wider use. On the conclusions front, I think what is important to remember is that all this effort on food waste contributes to something larger. Like our goal is really to contribute to a more sustainable food system which is certainly not sustainable now. So let's think of food waste as a tool, as a key tool actually for our sector to make that contribution to a more sustainable food system. We have seen that we can influence what consumers eat. We can also influence what herders produce, fishermen produce, farmers produce. So let's use this transformational force of our sector to do good. Food waste is catalytic. We have discussed it too. You can change the way you procure food. If you're thinking about food waste, you can change the way you prepare food. You can change the way you consume food, and you can change the way you manage food waste. Also inserting there the application of valorization processes, circular processes like composting, anaerobic digestion, waste to energy, etc., so that you can try and keep the value of food before it's disposed and goes to landfill, minimizing the part that goes to landfill. And then I guess we also need to remember that reducing food waste is environmentally responsible, it's ethical, it makes business sense. I mean, maybe not there in the numbers, as the colleagues were saying, was the return on investment, but we know in the long term, it should at least make business sense. For instance, think about ESG criteria, think about perhaps being able to mobilize grants or other funds because you are investing in this. And also it makes policy sense, right? Because of for instance, climate action strategies, or because of the potential to localize the food value chain, bringing on board more local communities and minimizing the leakage in many destinations, which is created because of importing food. So the mantra I propose is prevent, redistribute, circulate. And let's not forget that the circulate brings us all the way back to the beginning, to the design, and keep procurement as a key strategy as well in mind. So I guess those are my points. I really enjoyed it, and thank you, colleagues, for the good work.
Thank you, Virginia, for that. And last but not least, Ramona, what are your reflections on these sessions?
Well, my main takeaway is that there is plenty of good examples, really inspiring. So, and this is really our role, I think, as the Commission, to gather these good examples, share them with you through this webinar, but also, as I said, there is a Waste Framework Forum, the Waste Prevention Hub, and also we will be launching very soon, by the way, in September, Tourism Stakeholder Support Platform, where our aim is precisely to pool together all the knowledge, all the tools, good examples, and have this forum of exchanges for tourism stakeholders. And food waste is, of course, one of the important topics. So I think that for the future at the EU level, we do have a good policy framework already. The key point is to implement it. We are trying to support the stakeholders, everybody who is involved in this topic. Again, through gathering the knowledge, providing guidelines, etc., through funding. I have heard that this is necessary at the EU level, and I shared some links already and examples and the ongoing calls, so please benefit from them. I know sometimes, especially for the smaller companies, it's difficult to pinpoint the right access to the EU funding. Don't forget also that there is a local funding, national funding, and also private investment. So this combination should help. Also, I take note that awareness raising has to continue. Behavior science is very important in this respect, and some studies have proven that. I don't know if you had a chance to attend last week. There was an interesting event on food waste, precisely, not for tourism, but in general. There were scientists really presenting facts on behavior science and the outcomes, right? Skills was another point, and we will continue working on that. We know there is a gap of employment there, but we are launching now also a campaign. It's online to bring this awareness into the tourism, what it means to work in tourism sector. So we hope that this enlightens a little bit, at least the possibilities, mobility across EU borders. So a lot of things. I think the solution is to work in parallel in different fronts. There is no one single recipe, really. It's also about the shared governance at all levels. And we will continue supporting in that direction. So I'm very happy about this webinar. I hope it has brought some good examples and inspiration to go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ramuni. I don't want to forget Els, please, your remarks.
I'm just already opening all the links. Some of them don't work, but I think I'll manage.
That's good. Okay, and please, if you, in the meantime, we are reaching out our last part. I summarize it, and I had prepared a short summary when I looked at all the presentations, but I will skip that. And from my heart, I think that the importance of facts and monitoring, the importance of passion, and the importance of policies, and most of all, the importance of all of us people working together. This is what this is all about. And with that said, I would like to thank you all for participating. And Els, please give your last words before we conclude with the last words and the last intervening.
Thank you for everyone's eye-opening sites, and I'm eager to find out how to better implement all of your knowings, and be aware to always communicate with practitioners as well. So yeah, we might have like 40 pages, some kind of guidelines, but people just need really practical tips.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I totally agree. Before I leave the floor to Dr. Ralf Pasleiter, Director of International Public Policy at the EU Affairs at TUI Group, and also our chair at the T4T Green Subgroup, I want to show you the results of the poll, but I cannot really see it. Can you help me with that? There we have it. I hope you all see it on the right-hand side. And it's also a good conclusion of what this 2 hours have been about, to reduce waste and cost, and what is the importance of it and why. So those are the 2 words. Do we have a second? I cannot really see how I managed to the second question. Can you help me?
Of course. 1 second.
Yes, and of course, the topic of food waste management goes and concerns all the value chain, and that's very clear after these 2 hours, I think. And the third one, please. And the EU can support tourism stakeholders with all the above questions or the below questions. More raising awareness, training, institutional, and more of all, I think it's a question for all of us to take into account. So now with that said, please, Ralf, I leave the floor for you.
Thanks a lot, Carla. Thank you, everyone, for contributing to this incredible webinar. It's not an easy task, to be honest, to summarize so much information in 5 minutes. A lot has been said that would definitely warrant more concrete discussions and consultations going forward. So forgive me if I cannot mention everything that I found interesting, but I think what we can definitely take away from all this, well, if we start with FIA and the potatoes theory or practice, I would argue that has been, of course, extremely interesting and a good way to actually highlight what needs to be done. Food in action, behave as a CIA agent, right? Another one that I will remember for sure. And the Rescue Club, just to name a few. So I think really what resonates with me as a father of 3, to leave the world to your children in a better state than you have inherited it from your own parents. If that doesn't resonate with all of us, then I don't know what. So thanks a lot, Fia, for those very wise words. Virginia, I think you've also made an incredible contribution. But just to mention that the action framework for food waste reduction in tourism, prevent food waste, redistribute surplus food, and divert and circulate food waste from landfill through valorization processes. Just to mention something that again stuck with me from your intervention. I think these are keywords that sort of were a recurring pattern throughout the discussions today: prevent, redistribute, and divert. I think that captures it very, very accurately. So thanks a lot for your contribution to this, Virginia. Ramone, I think many of you here have highlighted some almost shocking figures when it comes to food waste. So that really impacted me quite substantially. 16% of total GHG from the EU food waste system, unnecessary spending, 400 euros a year, 132 billion euros in market value. This is just incredible. So I think this challenge really needs to be addressed heads on by all of us, and supported hopefully by the audience that is listening and watching today. So there is a lot to be gained here if we address this challenge. So Ramone, thanks a lot for highlighting this. Marine, again, lots of very valuable contributions. And I think among the things that stuck with me here, how we can use AI to prevent buffet waste. So a very interesting project here by the Hotel Costa Adeje, and I believe we should watch very closely this space to understand how technological innovative solutions can also help us to tackle this challenge going forward. So thanks a lot, Marine, for that. Else, Benedict and Thomas, I think you have been extremely valuable to highlight the practical elements, the practical challenges that you face in your everyday business. If not for the planet, do it for your morning coffee and chocolate. Very wise. I will definitely remember that and use it myself, if I may. I hope it's not protected by copyright. This is a really good one, and I believe, you know, it's sometimes difficult for people to break this down to their own actions and to say, how can I contribute to rescuing the world? But there is something every one of us can do, and if it's as little as that, that is already enough, as long as enough of us do it. Benedict, I think your project extremely impressive. And again, what you said about sizes, you know, reduction by 2 centimeters could lead to a reduction, if I understood correctly, of up to 30% in food waste. Small things can lead to incredibly large outcomes, impactful outcomes that I believe, again, we should really bear in mind when we try to find solutions to these challenges. So incredibly, you know, what we feel small little steps can contribute, taken together, to an incredibly large and impactful outcome. So let's not forget about that when we plan our next steps, reducing food waste in tourism. And last but not least, Thomas, of course, your summary around measuring, targeting, and act. I believe another recurring motive here: you need to have the right data before you can act. You need to look at it, you need to measure it, and then you act upon it. You can do good forecasts once you have the right data. And very, very important, again, another pattern that I heard and saw throughout the discussion today: awareness. Raise awareness, get people on board, engage the wider audience, show them the waste that they're producing. And that is what we have partly also tried to do today. Get the message out there, show some inconvenient truths to make sure that together this can be tackled with even more resilience and even more motivation, right? So we need to work on that together. I think in terms of next steps of our subgroup, of our expert group on the green transition, maybe just 2 more words. So this has been an incredible webinar, and I really thank everyone who was instrumental in the preparation. Carla, of course, you and your team in the task force did an amazing job. Thanks to all the speakers, very, very impactful, and hopefully the audience will take a lot of these messages back with them and use them and implement them in their daily business, but also private life, right? So we will have another webinar or another event continuing the series of events of this expert group It will focus on the impact of climate change on tourism, and we will most likely see that webinar happening in October. We'll keep you posted. Just follow our engagement online or on LinkedIn. I think there's multiple channels. We'll soon have a unified platform to engage with a broader audience as well. So you'll hear more about this too in the future. And of course, you know, these task forces will not stop working on the topics that are relevant for us. So we will see conclusions from this task force, from this webinar, just as we saw conclusions from the previous task force that discussed indicators and labels in tourism. So thanks a lot again. It was great. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too, and so did the audience. And you know, we'll have a lot of challenges to tackle, but as long as we take some of the things we heard today very seriously, then we can do this together. So thanks a lot and good luck going forward.
Thank you, Ralph, for that. And last but not least, also, we will shortly be sending a survey, and we are eager to invite you and for us to receive all your input and your thoughts, because this gives us blood to see coming activities, not only on waste management, but also other activities and initiatives that the subgroup can take. So with that said, thank you once again to all of you speakers, all the participants. There's been a lot of interactivity at the chat, and we will take that on board, of course. So thank you and have a great day today. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.